All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Red Rain episode 168. Please welcome in your host, Walter Mitchell.
Thank you, Kyle Little Rock Ledbetter, who's down in Slam Diego today as we speak, sporting a suntan and his Take It Easy sweatshirt that he purchased during the pandemic and made some for his Take It Easy podcast. He watched the game yesterday uh, after his brunch, and he has some things to say about what transpired, and so do I. Um, for three quarters, it was looking good for the Cardinals, albeit how frustrating it was to not punch the ball into the end zone on numerous occasions, and to basically set up the offense for field goals. And it gave you the sense that you're just gonna, not take full advantage of their situation. It could come back to haunt them. And when they went up, 18-6, the question was whether they should go for two. And I was hoping they would. Feeling a little uneasy. I mean, if you're going to, kick field goals, but this was after their lone touchdown. So capitalize on the momentum, try to get 2 points, try to get a 2-touchdown cushion. Turns out that they decided to kick the extra point instead. In retrospect, that was a moot decision by Jonathan Gannon and the coaches. And then what we saw in the fourth quarter was kind of a panic frenzy from Kyler Murray and a rock solid performance by Sam Darnold and a Cardinals defense that took the pedal off the metal. I still don't understand that. I want to get into the questioning what was going on and what the mindset was when you late in the game decided to kick a field goal instead of going for it on fourth and short on near the goal line, 4th and 3. I think they had set up once again with an underneath throw to Trey McBride. And then basically putting the game in the hands of the defense, who had been kind of leaking oil late in the game, as Sam Darnold was really, slicing and dicing his way through the Cardinals. Suddenly now soft zones, which I still don't understand. But it was really frustrating, to then give up the lead. I still can't understand. If you're going to go up by 6, why don't you throw the kitchen sink at the Vikings defensively like you were for the first three quarters or most of the first three quarters, and just put as much pressure on and play sticky coverage as best you can. Instead, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know why Nick Rallis decided to dial it back in favor of then playing these zones that, quite frankly, have been a major culprit in all 6 of the Cardinals' losses. I mean, we don't play zones well, and we must lead the league in receivers catching a ball with a triangle of defenders all about 5 yards away, which shows you they're not playing the zones properly, because what you teach in zones is when a man comes into your zone, you play him man to man. You don't just stand there like a cardboard figure. And as long as Nick Rallis has been coaching here for 2 years, his players do not react well in zones. They don't pick up well in zones, and they leave too many people wide open for, hole shots galore. And I just cannot fathom a game for any defensive coordinator where you have a 4th and 5 with the game on the line, and you leave Justin Jefferson wide open with no man near him and an easy throw for any quarterback. That was just so mind boggling. I wish the Cardinals had called timeout there. They had 3 left to make sure, button down every little detail of how they were going to cover this play, how they were going to rush this play. The game that window was so important to take care of, and to just give it away like that so easily and then give up such an easy touchdown was just so deflating. And then, it just defied. Why would you then kick a field goal to go up 6 if this is your plan on the back end to defend it and on the front end to defend it, to defend the Vikings? And then to watch just the offense, to watch the Vikings do what the Cardinals needed to do, was get a pressure on a quarterback and play sticky man coverage that could lead to turnovers. They closed it out and showed the Cardinals the way to do it. And unfortunately, came out of that game with a agonizing 1 point, 23-22 loss. That almost at times felt like it was going to happen before it did. It just was a nerve-wracking game of squandered opportunities, albeit made opportunities. 8 times at or near the red zone. And here's one other stat I just want to throw out there is to speak to the Cardinals' passive aggressiveness on offense, is that, to my knowledge, and someone can correct me on this, the only pass in 8 trips in the passing area where you could attack the end zone that I saw from Kyler Murray into the end zone was the Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdown. So we were 1 for 1 thrown into the end zone. And not another shot the entire game. This is something they have to start correcting. And I have a proposal for that. And I want to take the lessons we can learn from this game and push them forward into this week, because this game is of monumental importance for the Cardinals. They have to prevail this week. If they don't, their chances are pretty much, they would have to win out, and the Seahawks would have to lose 3 of their last 4 games because they'd have a 2-game cushion over the Cardinals. So, and the odds of that happening are too good. But if the Cardinals win this week, they go back into a tie for first place, and they have the tiebreaker for better division record, at least momentarily. They'd be 3-1, with the Seahawks being 2-3. So, wow, what a golden opportunity! And it's a Monday to try to answer some reality questions about where they are as a football team, and to ask the question, which is the title of this podcast: what can the Cardinals get back to playing their best football for this, last stretch of games, starting with this week? Kyle, you saw what happened yesterday, and you've seen what the Cardinals have been doing all season. Can the Cardinals get back to playing their best football starting this week?
I think so. And we'll start with the defensive side of the ball. All season long, when the Cardinals were really struggling on defense, one of the things that I said is sometimes turning touchdowns into field goals can be a way to mask defensive deficiencies, right? For years, the Cardinals struggled at getting stops from 20-yard line to 20-yard line. And as the defense has gotten better, as they've figured out the players they want to be starting, between the Mac Wilsons, the LJ Colliers, more of Taylor Demerson, all of that, their defense has improved. And for the first 3 quarters of the game, the Vikings ran 1 play in the red zone, the entire start to that game. And that 1 play in the red zone ended in an LJ Collier sack. They were getting pressures on the quarterback. They were forcing three and outs, forced fumbles, missed field goals. Like it was going excellent defensively, and so that gives me hope because the Vikings have been one of the better offenses in the league this year. I mean, they're not going to blow you out the building like Buffalo or Detroit, but they've been a top 12 offense for most of this season. So I feel good about where the defense stands. You mentioned it though, just the zones were killer at the end, and I know it was a two-score lead and all of that, but they just got conservative too early, and
Yep.
that Vikings touchdown drive, it was just Justin Jefferson breaking zone, Justin Jefferson breaking zone, and then they would mix in runs once the Cardinals adjusted. So I like the way the defense is playing compared to where we were in week 5. It's almost night and day at this point, but I don't know exactly what the thing to pin down is on this is what the Cardinals can do defensively to get back to their best ball because they just played the Seahawks, right? We're going to have the same issues with trying to guard Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tyler Lockett are operating in the slot. They're going to have the same issues alternating run defense. So we'll see what they end up doing. I hope that, like you said, the zone defenses don't come into play when they do get such substantial leads like they had yesterday. But I think from the defensive standpoint, they are right there. And hats off to impact players we didn't expect. And for me, that's definitely Mack Wilson. I mean, Mack Wilson deserves a lot of love for his
Right.
performance against the
Yep.
Vikings. That I When they signed Mack Wilson, I thought he was gonna rotate snaps and be a backup player. And Mack Wilson has been just phenomenal for the Cardinals, especially as the defense has started to see improvement. So defensively, I think they're there at least compared to where they were in week 5. I mean, they have been playing like a top half defense in the league, and that is something that we haven't been able to say for Cardinals defenses in almost like 5 years now.
Right. Yeah. Let's go to the tape for that defensive video of Sam Darnold picking them apart in the last 3 drives. I mean, before we begin it, I just want to say how impressed I was for 3 quarters, how they put the pressure on. They've been doing this in recent games and getting through their pressures. This is a huge development for the Cardinals defense. But what I didn't understand was why they backed off of their man coverage. And I just, because that's what's been putting them in a great position to make plays too. And I just was wondering, I mean, credit Sean Murphy Bunting for knocking out 2 of those fumbles, early on in the game on Jones. They had to take Jones out of the game. And ironically, Jones ends up scoring the game winner, but on a wide open, easy swing pass. And we'll get to that later. But you know, but Murphy Bunting again with the pass interference. He's playing a little faster than he was earlier in the year, but we got good enough guys who can can play it and not be so mistake prone. And I just cannot understand why we played this game without Dadrian Taylor Demerson. I just can't understand it. I mean, Jalen Thompson is not the kind of free safety that can have the rangy, instinctive plays that the Rabbit makes. And I think the Rabbit could have made a big difference, particularly down the stretch in this game. And it makes me wonder, why, you wouldn't play sticky coverage with Dadrian Taylor Demerson in the back instead of what they did. But I do want to give him credit because LJ Collier had 2 sacks. Mack Wilson Sr. had 2 sacks. I mean, there were good signs there from the Cardinals and getting to Darnold, and that was huge. But why they took that pressure off and why they, took the coverage off is mystifying, and they hopefully they can straighten it out. But now let's see how easy it was to attack these zones. I just want, the visual evidence. I mean, this is why Sam Darnold ended up, being the
Next play, literally the next play.
Look him step
Justin
up.
Jefferson.
Now that was covered. Murphy Bunting right there could possibly make a play, but didn't. That was better covered.
But on a play like this, you would rather here. It's kind of going fast here, so it's difficult to pause it. But on this play, you have a corner and a safety dropping in to cover Jefferson,
Correct.
which is what you want on a play like that. Obviously,
Yeah.
if you're going to rush 4 and drop 7, you want to make sure you've got 2 bodies following Justin Jefferson. But at a certain point, if you can't get pressure, Jefferson's just going to come back to the ball, and you have a nice little pitch and catch there. So,
and that was exactly what an all-pro receiver does. He comes back to the ball and doesn't let someone play the passing lane like a Murphy Bunting. I just wish they'd have a double team like that on the 4th and 5 with the game on the line and make them complete that under pressure. But it didn't happen.
Yeah, and you'd hope that on a play like that, if Zaven can get pressure a little bit quicker on Darnold, it forces him to mess up his feet or move to his left a little bit or just something to throw off the play. I mean, we'll do a little count. It wasn't that bad of a play, 2nd and 6 now.
Right.
Quick throw, almost gets batted down, but again.
Look at how wide open this is. Cardinals are just playing cardboard figures.
Soft coverage in the zone right there. And you
no
have
one's playing that. A linebacker's supposed to be there in a zone. It's just such a gift.
Well, and the other thing that happens is you have Jefferson on the boundary here, and this, I can't tell who it is. Let's see, 23, so that would be Thompson, I'm guessing.
No, Murphy Bunting.
Or Murphy Bunting.
Murphy Bunting.
Murphy Bunting is leaning towards the boundary where Mack Wilson is sticking on Justin Jefferson, but you can see a little too far back, but right about, watch 23, right there, his eyes are going towards Jefferson on the boundary, which leaves the safety having to drop down here to get the tight end.
Point range, and that decision not to go for 2 isn't as terrible. But you just give up this wide open. Okay, so defender slips there. Still, you can't do that. You got to keep your feet, get your leverage. For crying out loud.
Yeah, our heads might be covering it in the video, but so the tight end, here, I'll pause it real quick just in case the people can't see it. So 86 right here.
You can't let him leverage you like that. You got to get on him sooner, and you got to get on his hip.
So 86 is going to run to the corner here, and just in case our heads are blocking it, he's going to bump Mack Wilson around the 1-yard line. He's going to stay up. He stumbles a little bit, but Mack Wilson is going to go down off the
poorly played. And let me ask you this. Why is Mack Wilson playing in that situation?
Well, I mean, the last 3 plays we saw, they have Mack Wilson dropping back in coverage, which is a little bit strange given how well he had been playing as a pass rusher up to that point. There's no need to drop him back. At the very least, if you're going to do that, have an extra linebacker or an extra safety or something, especially because they're rushing 1, 2, 3, 4 on the play. So if you're dropping 7 back into coverage, you can bring in an Owen Papo, or you can bring in an Adrian Taylor Demerson, or just a different package if that's what you want to go with.
That's true. But still.
So anyways, Wilson goes down. You can see him getting up right here on the play, and he's guarding the tight end, but off the chip block, he kind of falls down.
Sorry. That's lame. Totally lame. That's not stepping up and playing good football.
All right, so now we're on the next possession. It's 2nd and 14 at the 28. Rushing 4 again. They get to the quarterback, but again, Jefferson, soft spot in the zone. Right.
This is where we leave
there.
There's no defender within 3 yards of him. Look at the cushion. I mean, that's called a whole shot. That
And on this one, I will give Darnold credit. That's not an easy throw to make, even though he has all those people surrounding the football. I mean, he's getting hit by, I think it's Kaiser. He's getting hit as he throws. That's an
right.
18-yard completion. I'll give Darnold credit on that one. That's a very good throw. And I can't tell who that is that's making the diving play right there.
David
20.
Collins.
I think that might be
Why?
Zaven, number
Why
20.
is this is where a Dadrion Taylor Demerson can come in handy, being over the top on a throw of that length, where no one gets to it. Look at Bunting given so much cushion. Look at how far away Bunting is from the play. It's inexcusable. When a man comes in your zone, you take him, you pick him up. You don't just let him sit there wide open. Wow.
Yeah, that was also a disguise. I think that is Collins who's making the diving play, and that's a disguised blitz situation where Kaiser is the one who ends up rushing instead of him. And that's just on a 2nd and 14, you don't really need to do that if you're rushing four. It's just that was
It's an
a
epic
strange
fail.
decision.
2nd and 14. You gave him an out. No one near him.
And in the same play, so snaps it at 12:39, and then at 35, he gets out of the pocket.
Where is
Uh,
our edge? What the frick? Were they supposed to do a tackle exchange stunt?
Dimakije, I think that is, just gets caught in the middle on that play. And, he's going up against an all-pro left tackle and just has nothing against him.
56, I think, is
Is it Browning?
no. Browning's 54. You know who that is? That's the rookie. That's uh our rookie first round draft pick who's
Oh,
playing in
Robinson?
Robinson. Yeah. Yeah, that's Robinson. Playing
Yep, yeah,
edge.
it is. Yep, that's Darius Robinson.
Oh man, you can't give up contain. Oh, that's really bad. I'm sorry. That's terrible. Plus,
Uh, you,
that tackle was
so now, next play, 30-yard line, 1st and 10. We've got play action. This time we have a blitz, although at this point, Zaven Collins drops back on the fifth rusher. So they show blitz. Zaven chip blocks the tight end, and then he drops back into coverage. So now they're rushing four. They get a little bit of pressure, but again, soft spot in the zone.
again. Look at the three defenders. No one within a yard of them. Cardinals lead the league in this. It's pathetic. And again, it's called a classic hole shot. Look at the cushion. I mean, this is with the game on the line. It's just unbelievable. I mean, Jesse Lucchetta, you have him out there. You have Zaven Collins out there. These guys aren't pass defenders. You know, I just see stuff like this. How can we trust our defensive coaches when you see stuff like this? As good as the defense has played earlier, can this happen? How can they let it happen?
All right, so very next play right after that. So now they're rushing five. 43 gets a late break on it on this play. So here, I'm going to go back to the start real quick. On this play, so 43 is going to be a pass rusher here along with these four. So now you've got, let's see, you got two tight ends wide, two receivers here, running back here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 5 linebackers and safeties in the box here. You're going to rush 5. 43 doesn't get the greatest break on the ball, so now you've lost that for the most part. You've got one-on-one on the outside, running back versus Aaron Jones. The pass ends up falling incomplete, I believe, on this play.
Yeah, it was a dive. Threw it perfectly.
But again,
But
you've got Mac Wilson
This I can live with. I mean, Mac Strong, Mac Wilson played this about as well as you can. So credit him. Picked him up early. Too bad weren't playing like this when they scored the touchdown.
Yeah, so that drive ends up stalling with a field goal. Um, if you go back to this play right here, so you've got man on man Jefferson, man on man with the tight end there. You've
Right,
got a roaming safety, but again, Thompson just gets caught because he's going
right.
to Jefferson, and they just throw it right over the top into one-on-one
See,
coverage.
and the point is, when you put pressure on the quarterback and you put pressure on the receivers, this is the kind of misses that can happen. Whereas when you leave them wide open, you know, given the choice, what are you going to call?
Which, based on the Cardinals' personnel, too, I would say they're better off on that play. So they rush 5 here, and obviously 43 doesn't get the best break off on the ball, but the Cardinals are better off rushing this way because not only do you have one-on-one across the field, but because of personnel, you have Buda Baker who can play as the roaming safety. You have Jalen Thompson or Dadrian Taylor Demerson.
Right,
Because they're so strong in the safety unit, they're better off running these one-on-ones with a roaming free safety.
right.
Um, you've got
There
Jordan
you go.
Addison down to the 39-yard line.
Wide open zone.
Again, Cardinals rush 4, tight end chip block. So the tight end was open right here too. I think that's Hawkinson.
Yep,
Hawkinson's wide open right there also.
right.
You've got a corner who's kind of stuck in no man's land
There you
there.
go. The triangle with nobody near. How they could let this happen over and over and over again is just beyond me. It's just unthinkable. The game on the line.
All right, so now they get it to 4th and 7. This is right after the
He's,
Addison completion. They've got it down to 4th and 7. The Vikings have just called a timeout to set up a play on 4th and 7. Cardinals are showing blitz right here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players showing blitz. We'll see how many of them actually rush here in a second. Darnold snaps. You got 5 coming, including Buda coming in off the side. They get pressure. Darnold gets off the throw. Triangle, Justin Jefferson. First down to the 21.
I mean, how can you leave Justin Jefferson wide open in this situation? And you're covering him in a zone with a linebacker, Browning. And again, the triangle. I mean, this is just unthinkable.
And on this play, I get wanting to take away the top a bit because you've got I can't tell who that is. I think that might be maybe
Murphy Bunting,
this is Murphy Bunting,
or it
and
might
you've
be
got
Williams.
Thompson back there. I get wanting to take away something deep, but if you're blitzing and playing zone, you want to drop that zone down and dare them to take it over the top because on 4th and 7, you'll live with them trying to take a shot over the top because if it doesn't get completed, if you get the pressure on Darnold like they got, then the throw's either going to be errant, it's going to be underthrown, and if they complete it, great, but if they shouldn't have the time to run that route, especially if Jefferson is just dropping into the soft part of the zone. So, I feel like they gave up too much of the middle of the field on this play for rushing 7. And you've got Kaiser kind of stuck in the middle right there. It's just.
I got a better idea. Let's take Garrett Williams, our best defender, and put him on Justin Jefferson and play him man and then double him from behind. So he's got help. How about that with the game on the line? Instead, you're trying to cover him with a linebacker in a zone where the linebacker doesn't even cover him. Ah,
All right. So next play after the 2-minute warning. So after that completion, they have it at the 14-yard line, 1st and 10. Cardinals have, I mean, the plays kind of started, but you can kind of see everyone's log jammed together in the middle here with one,
Right,
two, three receivers out wide.
right.
They're playing the run, essentially, is what's happening here. The Cardinals are playing the run. It's a play fake to Jones. You've got Jordan Addison on the screen, hat on hat receivers blocking. You've got Buda Baker right there, but you got block from Jefferson, block from, I think that's Naylor maybe. Addison gets out wide. Garrett Williams has to come in and make the tackle after an 8-yard completion. That one was just a case of they're playing the run and they got fooled on a pass. So now 2nd down and 2 at the 5-yard line. You've got Darnold, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 rushing. They drop Minnesota.
And by the way, how many times do Cardinal fans have to watch running back wide open for a touchdown late in the game? Hello, Austin Eckler. That was advanced Joseph defense. Now we see this. We've seen this with Rallis last 2 years as well. They're not covering, running backs in the goal line. Likely there. It's just very frustrating. And, I have to be honest. I was really gaining some confidence in Nick Rallis, and felt like he had this thing moving in the right direction. But too many times the last 2 weeks. Here's the thing. He's dialing up pressures. And he's getting to the quarterback, and when he plays sticky coverage, it's working. Why stop? Why, dial it back? I'm sorry, but you're not teaching zones for shit. I'm sorry. You're not defending anyone. You're just letting them play you. And this is why Kyler Murray's getting outplayed by guys you wouldn't think would outplay him. Because they're making it easy for the other quarterbacks. Whereas, did the Vikings play soft zone at the end there? You had Shaq Griffin covering Marvin Harrison Jr. for an interception. You had their edges, making plays, got a strip sack on Kyler. They're closing out. They're pressuring and covering. We were not pressuring and not covering. Just drives you nuts. So, I don't know how Rallis, comes back with his team watching this tape and what he tries to impress upon them. But that is an epic fail of a fourth quarter defense. Epic. And people are saying defense played lights out. This is the thing with Cardinal fans. If they play well for 2 quarters or 2.5 quarters, it's not the defense's fault. Sorry, this is a defense's fault when you play like that and when you're coached like that. There should have been better coaching. There should have been better playing. You got to come after people. And it's kind of the same way. Maybe it's because your offense plays soft and doesn't be aggressive trying to score touchdowns. Maybe suddenly defense plays soft. And it's just very frustrating to come this whole game and watch it just get pissed away by just stupid play calling of soft zones and no pressure. So, turn it over. We'll turn it over to the offensive side of the ball. It seemed like every drive was setting up for field goals. 3rd and longs was always like a draw play or a 2-yard pass to set up a 4th down, which you're not going to go for. You're going to kick it instead. No shots into the end zone. This is such passive football. So if the Cardinals are going to get their mojo back, if they are going to start playing their best football again, like they were doing before the break, they got to get, kick it into a new gear. Because, staying close in games and then just pissing it away with poor pass coverage is going to lose it for you every time. It's making it so dang easy. Now, we've seen the Cardinals close out games. We've seen them get ahead in closeout games. They have it in them. They were doing it before, which is why I suggest the two things I would do if I were coaching the Cardinals. I'd show them Kevin O'Connell's locker room speech about the importance of playing 60 minutes and the confidence he had in what they could do down the stretch to try to translate it to your own football team. And then I'd have the team go back and watch the Rams home game where they dominated the game from start to finish and closed it out the way that they should and the way that they played sticky coverage and played and stifled Kyron Williams in the running game. If you watched them last night or yesterday, Williams had a big game in New Orleans. The Cardinals prevented him from doing that because they were run blitzing Buda Baker at him. I mean, so, and the Rams are suddenly finding themselves in a decent position here. We can't count them out. They're 6-6, and you know they've got arguably the best quarterback in the division, and this Puka Nacua is just unbelievable. And of course, they got Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell and Kyron Williams, and their line's getting healthier. That's a team that's going to be, you know, and they're gaining momentum suddenly. So we got to keep an eye on them. But it's a moot point if we can't get something done against the Seahawks, who just as the Cardinals were you know gift wrapping a Vikings win, the Jets were doing the same for the Seahawks, and suddenly it was like, whoa, a game we thought right there we had a chance to win, we lose, and a game we thought the Jets had a chance to beat the Seahawks, they lose, and the Seahawks win, and now we're in this position of having, you know, to take care of business at home against the Seahawks, whom we haven't beaten in like 6 chances. And we got to find a way. So, Kyle, what was your thought on the Cardinals' offense as you saw it?
I mean, you talked about the field goals of it all, and that's obviously dissatisfying, disappointing. The interceptions, obviously, the one at the end of the game on 4th down and underthrow is really disappointing. But I don't know what to do with the Cardinals' offense coming out of this game because I kind of look at it. It's like, okay, the run game was better than the week before against the Seahawks, so you can take that away as a positive, but the passing game wasn't there. So I don't know. I feel like I'm not overreacting one way or another at the offense. I mean, Kyler very much got outplayed by Sam Darnold, and I'm not putting that aside because it's, you know, dissatisfying to have Kyler Murray get outplayed by Sam Darnold when the outcome of the game was still in question. But I think the Cardinals I'm okay with the way that things turned out because they did some things well and some things not well. So I guess I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not overreacting at the end and being like this is a broken system or a bad system. I just want to pull up the box score real quick just to kind of point it out. Like there was all
yeah,
the talk before the game about the Gannon, you know, saying we're going to get Marvin going, and everyone, you know,
right.
looks at the line and it's like, well, you know, what happened there? And the touchdown was excellent. I will give him that. The touchdown makes the stat line look a lot better, but I mean, Vikings, credit to Brian Flores. They played great defense on Marvin Harrison Jr. But then you look at Trey McBride, and it's like Trey McBride just whatever he wanted, anything he wanted, whenever he wanted against the Vikings defense. So it's just I kind of I just kind of look at it like they did some things well, they did some things not. They should have gone for two. They should have tried to push the ball a little bit more, but uh, it should have been enough to win the game. And so I look at that and I'm like, the offense that they played should have been good enough to win. So even though they did some things poorly, I'm not looking at it like this and this is why the offense is broken, because the offense did enough to win the game. I mean, you'd like them to not kick 5 field goals, but the and really 6 because they missed one, but the offense did enough to win the game. Is kind of my look at it, which
I don't
is
know. I don't know about that.
they should
I
have.
mean,
I mean, they should have won that game. And the 2 minute drill, it was the same thing you were talking about before. I'll pull up the drive chart for the 2 minute drill. It was just dink and dunk. We're not taking any chances down the field. Once they got in the 2 minute drill, it was like, they had already lost the game by that point. They showed nothing in the 2 minute drill, but they got the ball into Vikings territory on virtually every possession, and I don't know how much more you can ask beyond just the score, converting it into touchdowns part of it. It wasn't perfect by any stretch. I just you know McBride killed it, running game killed it. I just you know Kyler Murray and the offense as a whole didn't really kill it.
well, they had 154 yards rushing against a good rush defense. That was good. Um, you know, they can you put up Kyler's? I mean, 260 yards passing is pretty decent. You know, and only one sack, although, the panic throws were an issue. I don't know how his QBR was 76.7. I think that's a mistake. The rating is lower. Passer rating is lower.
The rushing the
But
rushing stats help with that too.
yeah, I think that's got to be a mistake because this was not a great QBR game for
No,
Kyler.
I think it's true. It's just the rating is going to be down because of the second interception, which I'd be curious what the interceptable. I mean the first one, what but the interceptable passes. I wonder how many he had during the game as well.
Well, Sam Darnold was more efficient, and his QBR was 58.5. There's something wrong there. I mean, he had two TDs, 0 interceptions. Yes, he had the 5 sacks, but that's not a lot of that's not on him. I mean, the Cardinals got to him fast and early. Um, but anyway, you know, what stands out to me is the continued average pass is like 5.8. It's like one of the lowest in the league. All we're doing is passing under the chains, occasionally over it. That I believe should change. Look at Trey McBride, 0 TDs again. How can we go 12 games and our one All-Pro candidate on offense doesn't even really get thrown to in the end zone, let alone does he have a single touchdown? That's something that should be straightened out immediately, ASAP. The Marvin Harrison thing is happening the way that I feared. Was it's distracting away from the strength of the offense. I mean, 5 catches for 60 yards, fine, but 12 targets, not good. I mean, that's 7 plays that could have happened somewhere else. I mean, and to be honest with you, and I tweeted this out yesterday, is I'm watching the same concerns I had watching him at Ohio State last year, getting blanketed in coverage, not real sudden off his moves, kind of robotic looking pass routes, very mechanical, not playing especially with urgency, a sense of urgency, and looking like he's running like 3/4 speed. We don't see separation there. I mean, even the touchdown pass he caught, it was great. Concentration, but he had a guy draped all over him. I mean, he's too easy to cover so far in the NFL. And something's got to happen, over the offseason to make this different if he's going to live up to being a number 4 pick in the NFL draft. But so far, I mean, it's disappointing to see the lack of separation, the lack of urgency, and him being routinely covered by average cornerbacks like Moreau and Shaq Griffin. I mean, they're not even the typical starters. I mean, the Cardinals caught a break, or they could have, when Stephon Gilmore got injured and was taken out of the game. It's just disappointing that we couldn't get guys better. I mean, I think the best wide receiver on the team right now is Michael Wilson. And, I mean, he's the one, he's getting open. He's catching balls over the middle. He's high pointing balls when they're thrown. He did a heck of a job in this game. And, he caught 5 out of 7 targets. McBride was 12 for 12. And it just crushes me. My guy, Brock Bowers, I said, put him opposite McBride, we'd be lights out. I mean, I think, if you've been watching Brock Bowers, look me in the eye and say Brock Bowers isn't as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. as a football player.
Brock Bowers is better than Marvin Harrison Jr. There's no question. Brock Bowers has been, with a revolving door of quarterbacks, Brock Bowers might win Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is ridiculous. The fact that the Raiders have lost 9 games in a row and Brock Bowers is going to break rookie passing records is ridiculous. Brock Bowers, and it wasn't crazy taking Brock Bowers early in the draft either. I mean, Brock Bowers at times was the best player in college football during his last season there. So, Brock Bowers has been lights out this season, lights out this year.
Right. So now we hope the best for Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I think whatever he does in this offseason, maybe this is why he didn't want to test in the 40. But he's got to get faster and more sudden and play with a sense of urgency. So whatever happens this summer, he's got to, he's got a to-do list if he's going to separate himself in the NFL. And he's a sweetheart kid. I worry at times he's more focused on the money part of football than necessary, than he needs to be, or the business decisions. But he certainly has a tremendous work ethic, and but it's got to translate over into the games in terms of urgency. I'd rather him run as hard as he can for 3 plays and take him off for 1 or 2, than just sort of running 3/4 speed most of the time. And they got to run him on more crossers. They got to do mesh plays. They got to get more aggressive with this, with their route combinations as well. Run a lot of post corners, pocos as they call them, with Harrison in the slot at times, with Wilson in the slot at times. Between the 2 of them, post corners. That's tough for a lot of teams to guard, especially with receivers of that length. But here's what the issue was yesterday too on the offense were the penalties. A rash of penalties. Tip Ryman. I mean, the one that really bites you in the butt is him getting called for one that wasn't on him when in the red zone and at the when the Cardinals had the ball 1st and goal at the 5, which was a 5-yard penalty that shouldn't have been given to him. That's just galling. I mean, he should have a replay to correct that. I mean, it's so easy to just look at it and know that it wasn't Tip Ryman. It was the Vikings defensive tackle who jumped off first. But Tip Ryman, got called on a call on a holding, got called on a holding, 2 or 3 times on false starts. Not good. Now that crowd had an effect, obviously, but you also had, Adams on a key holding call on a nice Connors run, where he didn't have to hold it all. Connors was gone, and but Adams kept holding on to the jersey of his man. That's a rookie mistake. So the two Illinois kids had a rough day, penalty wise. So there were things that kept pushing the Cardinals backwards instead of forwards. But man, I still think taking some shots into the end zone. Here's another reason to take shots into the end zone is you might get a PI and then get the ball at the one. I mean, it's just so passive. It's just everything's so cautious, underneath. Um, and I've said this in the past about Kyler and his game. It's like at times he just plays within a 20-yard box and has no variation. It's like a 20-yard computer screen where all he plays is under. It's just so passive. And the other thing I worry about Kyler is his windup, which if I were coaching him, I'd have him tucking the ball here and throwing from the ear, bing. But instead, he does this big windup each time, and that's a valuable second lost in getting the ball on time. Now, Kyler is tremendously accurate at times, but on most of his throws, they're not long enough where you need to wind up anyway. But it would be better, it would be safer too to have a more compact delivery, one right over your ear, and snap it out. I see this in other quarterbacks, and I'm envious because this is part of Kyler's game that worries me. I mean, it's also something's got to be done about him. We got to take some shots downfield. Now, look at the one shot they took downfield to Zay Jones. We got the PI. A couple of times when we did take shots, we got PIs. We got to do more of that. You got to stay on top of this and be aggressive. So it'll be an interesting week of practice to see what they do. I mean, I thought special teams was good, except for the one kickoff return at the end there. That was untimely that the Cardinals gave up. But Chad Ryland, 5 of 6 field goals. That's a good day. I mean, it's too bad he missed that early one, but credit him for coming back and steadying his swing out and nailing all the other ones. So, and he's been a bright spot.
Which, to that point earlier that I said, the offense did enough to win the game. If that one kick goes through and he has a 6-for-6 day, not only is he getting a game ball, but it's a 25-23 Cardinals victory.
All right. Well,
Look,
okay.
83% is a great kicker. I'm not pushing that back against Ryland. It's just if he goes 6-for-6, they win the game.
All right. Well, I don't know. Just from a feel standpoint, sometimes in the game, you got to feel how it's trending. Where momentums are and stuff. And put it this way: I think the Cardinals, if they capitalized on certain things, particularly on the fumble recovery and stuff, and pushed it and punched it into the end zone a couple times, could have run away with this game. I think clearly the Vikings were flat coming out. They had been, they had the Thanksgiving Day hangover, and we really could have laid it on them. And it's a squandered opportunity. I mean, when you're just settling for field goals and setting up for field goals and not taking shots over the sticks to try to convert or over the goal line to try to convert, this is what can end up happening. And like you said, the Vikings offense has been one of the better ones in the league. And they've got multiple weapons. And so you got to take into account, you got to outscore them somehow. And how many points do they average a game? Let's check this out.
Yeah, let's see. I know in offensive DVOA they were ranked 12, but let me see. NFL points per game leaders. Right now, that would be the Vikings come in ninth at 24.8.
There you go. And they scored 23 yesterday. So you got to outscore them. You know, they're top 10 offense points wise. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be part of your thinking. And, you know, it was wishful thinking you could hold them to hold them down for 16 points. I mean,
Right now, their offense is ranked, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 14th in offensive DVOA.
okay. What's the Cardinals?
The Cardinals are, let me see, I just closed out of it. Let me reopen it real quick.
DVOA.
DVOA rankings. The
Yeah.
Cardinals are sitting at offensive DVOA, 7th.
Are they, is that updated?
Yes, that's updated from this week. Last week they were ranked 9th, and this week they're up to 8th. But the reason they made that jump is that last week 8th was the 49ers and 9th was the Cardinals, so they just moved ahead of the 49ers,
Okay.
basically.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we've had our games when you know, we've done better than settling for field goals, put it that way. And sometimes you, as a coach, you just got to say, this time we're not going to kick. If it's close, we're going to go for it. I was hoping they would go for it at the end of the game because that gives you one chance to put that game away. Just as they had one chance to do it on defense when a 4th and 7, and they give up a wide open pass to their best receiver, an all pro, which is so frustrating. It just felt like, a gift wrapping. And, with holidays coming up, it's so frustrating. But here's what the Cardinals have to do. I mean, I've talked about going back to, what they were doing to do so well against the Rams. They can go back to watching what they were doing during their 4-game winning streak. Whatever the Cardinals did at the break, they lost that momentum. And Kyler in particular, Kyler was looking invincible for the first time in his career, in a stretch of games that I've seen. And I was really growing in confidence there. But the last 2 weeks, I mean, he just didn't pick up where he left off. And I don't know if it's mental or, the team, didn't sync up or the team didn't rally around this. But whatever's happening, it's not quite where it was when we left off and we weren't able to build on it. And now we're in a position, the team is it's got to happen now. It's got to happen this week. And they got to find that whatever that mojo was, whatever that pattern was, whatever that groove was, they got to kick that back into gear. And it's got to be really timely for them this week. And, the Seahawks are on a roll. They've won a few in a row. They're giddy about winning yesterday. They're giddy about beating the Cardinals 2 weeks ago. So, and they're going to be sitting on all sorts of stuff that the Cardinals ran on them the first time. We got to have wrinkles. We got to run the ball much better this time. We got to take care of Leonard Williams and not let him dominate the game the way he did the first time around. We got to take care of their receivers. When we do blitz, we better have man coverage on Jackson Smith, JSN. Jackson Smith, Najigba. We got to play DK Metcalf straight up. Can't let Tyler Lockett spoil us like we have in the past. And of course the key is to Kenneth Walker, the third. We have to contain him. But we really have to get back to what we were doing that made that stretch of wins so memorable and successful. So we know. Here's the point: we know the Cardinals have it in them. We just don't know whether they can get it back. And this week's the best time to do it. Do I think they can do it? Yes. Um, yes. If they learn from what went on the last two games, if they can really learn the counters to how to, become more aggressive, to be more efficient, to get the ball into the end zone, to play peskier man coverage and run defense and keep up some great work on special teams, then yes, they have it in them. We've seen they have it in them. And, this is the time of year that, in December when the good teams step up and it's their turn. It'll say a lot about the coaching if they can do it. It'll say a lot about the players and the resolve. Kudos to James Conner for getting a 2-year extension worth $19 million. I am fully on board with that. Really excited about that, to know that he'll be a Cardinal, and I think he'll be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor, and should be after his tenure here. So that's exciting. Want to see them get a deal done with Budda Baker. So that's exciting too. But it's time. This is if Kyler Murray is going to really step up and take command, this is the time to do it, Kyler. I mean, you had things going before the break as well as you've had it going in a while. Now you kind of step back a little bit. You haven't been terrible, but you haven't been great. Now's the time for Kyler Murray to step up, take this thing by the reins, and lead this team and get everyone fired up. So, with that, Kyle, your closing thoughts.
Well, you said it off the top what the stakes are for the game on Sunday, right? It's if you win, you're back in the driver's seat for the
Correct.
division. If you lose, it's pretty close to a long shot at this point. I feel comfortable saying the 49ers are done at this point, 5-7. Christian McCaffrey going out for the year. Their playoff odds are about 10% at this point. Never say never, but it would take a lot for the 49ers to be able to get back into the playoff race. Rams are 6-6, but they play Buffalo next week. So, fingers crossed the Bills come through for the Cardinals and get a win, and the Rams will go to 6-7. And obviously the Cardinals are, one way or another, the Cardinals are going to have to beat the Rams in week 17 if they want to win the division. But in the short term, you hope that the Bills can, and teams like that can help set up the division for them. If you win, you're in the driver's seat, and if you lose, you're fighting for that wild card spot with ironic enough, you're fighting for that last wild card spot with Cliff Kingsbury and the Washington Commanders. So
And they have the tiebreaker because they whooped
exactly.
our butt. Yeah.
So
So
we did a preview during the bye week of the Seahawks games where we talked about personnel decisions in the state of the NFC West. You could just go back and replay that podcast. If you want a preview for this week's game, just replay
right.
that podcast because it's the same circumstances. Can you guard Tyler Lockett? Can you guard Jackson Smith and Jigba? What is Ryan Grubb going to draw up on the offense, and how does Nick Rallis counter that? What does Drew Petzing have drawn up against the Mike McDaniel defense? I talked about that going into the first matchup. I was curious to see what the offense ran out with going up against the Seahawks defense. So same circumstances as 2 weeks ago. They didn't get it done the first time. Offense really had trouble against the Seahawks. We'll see what ends up happening this week. I would imagine that Marvin Harrison Jr., Devin Witherspoon matchup is going to be talked about a lot, and we'll see what ends up happening. But, this is the game of the season. This one right here is the game of the season for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes. So, I'm looking forward to this. I think the Cardinals have it in them. I'm more confident than I've been about the coaching. I feel like Yesterday might have been able to lean on a defensive advisor down the stretch. That concerns me of the decision making that went on there. Although I think Nick Rallis is making tremendous strides. I was worried about whether he could be that competitive in our own division, and so far, with the help of Buda Baker, who was like, planning with him, he's doing a good job. I mean, yesterday I don't get it. I don't get what we was thinking down the stretch, and in the second half, it just all kind of fell apart like a house of cards. But he had it going for 2.5 quarters, and or almost 3 quarters. So there's a lot to like about the young personnel. I don't, you know, I mean, I think one of the best 7 players on defense sat out as a healthy scratch yesterday. Dadrion Taylor Demerson. They got to figure that out because he's a valuable key player for us. And I know Jalen Thompson's highly respected and he's got the big salary and all that. He's just at that position at free safety. He's not the same kind of player, and it's a tough decision to have to make. But it's probably the same reason why you don't go back to Matt Prater now, because you got a guy that's younger and better at that position, or at least as good, but if not better. I think Dadrian Taylor Demerson, as a free safety, is the best guy on the roster, hands down. So, maybe that was affecting how the Cardinals were playing coverage in this game and how confident, or unconfident that Nick Rallis may have been down the stretch with a different lineup in there. And it seems to me when he had Taylor Demerson in there, he's more aggressive. So I'm hoping they will do something about that. And I have my doubts about Sean Murphy bunting. I just don't think his head is screwed on correctly. Makes too many mistakes. I'd much rather have Max Melton out there. I think he's feistier, and faster. And Garrett Williams. If we ever play the Vikings again, I hope he introduces himself and Nick Rallis has him go over and introduce himself to Justin Jefferson. I mean, we got to put best on best, and unfortunately, we didn't do that down the stretch yesterday, and it helped cost the Cardinals a game. But this could be a valuable learning experience for the entire team. And if you show them that locker room clip from Kevin O'Connell, I think the players are going to realize this is what the kind of feeling we want in our locker room, which we had before the break, and we got to do everything we can to get back. So I'm looking forward to this week. I'm just so anxious, and I'd be on cloud nine. So I think all of you would too, if we can prevail in this game and get back in the driver's seat, as Kyle said. Who knows? And we'll take it one game at a time. I don't talk about any other games right now. So I hope this week is good to you, and get your Christmas shopping done and holiday shopping. I've been doing that myself. So in the interim, may the red rain shower down onto you into the Red Sea, which I hope is in full force. Don't sell your tickets, guys, for this week. Red rain.